and welcome. I'm Punky Moore, and thank you for joining us today at the beautiful Saguaro Lake Guest Ranch on the Tonto National Forest
at the base of the Bulldog Cliffs. Without further ado, may I present Dr. Homer Wilkes, the Undersecretary for Natural Resources and Environment for the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you. No, I'll tell you what, I tried to give the chief my speech because I wanted to sit out and just take advantage of this great scenery and such a beautiful day, but he told me no can do. So he's the chief, so I'm gonna go ahead and follow through. But this is so important to me and to our constituents that we serve until it's a lot of pride here. And I have a lot of passion about what we're about to do. But I want to say one thing is that I was sharing early on that in the old days, we would probably say something like extra, 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 hear all about it. Because today, the Biden-Harris administration is gonna launch new efforts to address the wildfire crisis. Think about that. That's pretty important out here and for the end user. Pat, right? We on that, right? Exactly. But let me say, really, and I was serious about saying that because these opportunities, they don't come very often. It's once in a lifetime that we have these opportunities. And I'm elated to be a part of this opportunity and to make these announcements. But I'm going to do a few things here. I want to thank you all, first of all, for joining us here because this work that we're about to do, it's too big for any particular entity or organization. And having visited around a little bit earlier this morning, it was great to see how strong this partnership is out here. It's making these things done. I got a chance to visit with quite a few folks, and they was just talking about, well, yeah, we know you, we know you, we know you. And that's not always the case. It's not always the case. People begin to start fighting based on these resources before you get them. But if you can sit down and plan what you want to get done with them, it's so very, very important. So I want to applaud you for those efforts that you've made in order to get along and making sure these resources are used for the purpose they were intended. I would also like to recognize Chairman Ramler from the San Carlos Apache Tribe for being here today. Chairman, thank you for coming today. And we honor your partnership. We really do honor that partnership because as you manage your ancestral homelands, we appreciate the continued engagement that we have working with you and members of your tribe, sir. Thank you very much. Are there any elected officials? And I got a chance to meet two members from Senator Kelly's staff, but I want to recognize the elected officials in the audience here. If you could just kind of wave your hand. Well, thank you, Mayor. Got a chance to visit with you and folks out there. Thank you all for coming. Really, really want to say thank you all for coming there because really, it's through the efforts of those elected officials, to our congressional members, our senators and things of that nature, that we have the opportunity to have these fundings in both BUILD and RA. And I guess I want to use those acronyms from the standpoint, you know, folks, we use the federal government, we use all those acronyms, but BUILD, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act, for those who have that. I just want to make sure that we spell those things out because we have a tendency in government to talk among ourselves, and I want to make sure that we speak terms that everybody can understand those things. Not to insult you, but just to make sure we're clear on what we're talking about here today. But just this overall partnership is a unique opportunity, and it's so much appreciated by this administration, by the Department of Agriculture, Secretary of VILSAC, and others. We just want to say thank you and continue to work on that partnership. Let me talk a little bit about the wildfire crisis itself. As you know, we've developed in USDA Forest Service, we have a 10-year wildfire crisis. If you haven't gotten one of these booklets, find yourself one because there's a lot of good information here. So this is a very, very important, you know, we plan this activities out there and put together this strategy so whereby we can talk about and try to infuse those things that we needed in order to address the wildfire crisis. And what I want to tell you is that it is truly a crisis. You live it. I'm not here every day, but you live it every day. And it is a crisis. And we should treat it as a crisis. I mean, we can't be lackadaisy about this process. We have to be intentional. We have to make sure that we get out there and we work together to make those particular things happen. So it is a crisis, and we want to treat it as it is a crisis. You know, these large events and these fire events, you know, they actually degrade air quality. They actually displace disproportionately affect folks that have health concerns, lung diseases, children, and older people. I mean, that's really what's taking place. The smoke and the things that come around this country, it affects us all. It affects our communities. And we need to be sensitive to those issues out there. So we have to work together to make those things happen. And we are our brothers and sisters keeper. We are. So we have to work hard to try to make sure those things take place. And I want to say our greatest opportunity to intervene and address this emergency is now. It's now. This is a crisis and should be treated as one. I want to keep reiterating that for those who don't think it's a crisis. And some people might not have the impact and see the impact that the Western states see, and may not, you can see it on television, but I've had a chance to be close up and see the type of impact that it can actually have on communities and things of that nature. So it's so important that we actually recognize that and try to address those concerns in a concerted manner. Now, today marks a 1-year anniversary. About this time last year, we announced a 10-year strategy. We actually had about 10 fire sheds that was actually looked at. We put some dollars in there, and it's been very, very successful as we began to implement that. And it was so successful until your representatives out there, your congressional members, your senators, they thought that it would be worth infusing more dollars into those particular things. Now, I'm going to talk at a high level. I'm going to ask Chief Moore to actually give you the details of it. I won't steal his talk, but we're here today to announce an infusion of some major dollars that will come into this state and some of the other western states out there. But it's going to take that partnership to get it implemented. One thing I would tell you is something about having obligations, but we need implementation. You can obligate the money on the books, but you got to get out there and put it around. It's not important to actually have bulldozers turning and the hazardous fuel being removed from those communities. That's when it makes a difference. So it's one thing to have an obligation, but we want implementation, and that's where we want to be in this overall process. So the overall goal is to protect those communities out there. These fire sheds, we look at the various communities out there, but one of the things I want to say, and what took place in this event, it just wasn't, we got in a room and decided these were the fire sheds that was going to take place. There was probably some 3,000 comments that had come in, and there was probably about 11 round tables that took place. So we wanted an inclusive process. We wanted people to be in the process, not only buy into it. So what we have gotten here is folks said this is what they want to take place. So we have taken that in consideration, and that's how you have development of these additional landscapes that we'll be working on to treat it. It was your ideas, and I won't stand here to tell you that every idea that was actually accepted, because this is just a down payment on the amount of money that we're going to need in order to address these concerns. But because we did get input from the public, and these were the things we heard, we tried our level best to address those concerns. That's when you have a true partnership. Not that the federal government is saying this is what you need, this is what we want to do, but we wanted to hear from you, and we heard from you. We heard from you. So we will continue trying to address those concerns. And that's one of the major things that I think that we really need to look at. One of the things, in particular in this particular state, what I'd like to just say that we have a couple areas where we really want to work in. And Arizona will be a recipient of somewhere in the neighborhood of more than, let's say, $31 million that will actually be put toward work use here. But the chief will explain that more in details as we talk about these new dollars that will be infused into this overall process. But the landscapes that we're looking at are set to receive additional funding in this particular area. And that's important. We can go out there and we start looking at some things and say, okay, we need this, we need this. There's not enough money to address every concern out there, but we're going to do our level best with your help to make those things happen. I heard earlier today that there was leveraging opportunities from the various organizations that's out there, and we need to take full advantage of that. You know, that's one of the things we get it done. Again, I'll reiterate the fact, there's no entity or organization that's large enough to make this happen. It's going to take the help of all of us to make these things happen. So I'm very, very proud to be a part of this announcement day. I'm very, very proud that we have come together here, and we couldn't have picked a better place to make this happen. We just couldn't make, look at the day, the sunshine, it's short sleeve weather. Welcome to an Arizona winter, huh? How about that? I don't get that in Washington, D.C., and this backdrop here is awesome. It really is. It's just really awesome. So as I close and go to my seat, this is what I want to leave you with. The projects that have been identified, you know, you've heard this term shovel ready. As we have gone through and looked at these projects, these landscapes that have been identified, these projects that's out there, you can actually go to work. You can actually go to work. It's not that we have to do a whole lot to make things happen. There's something there for everyone. You can actually go out there. We're talking about shovel ready. Brian assured me there are some opportunities that we can actually start work right now in those. And the benefit of that is protecting the communities there where you live and where you serve. That's so important. This is a project, the dollars that's infused here is try to create community resilience. We actually trying to address, climate change, the drought, and all those things that take place. But these projects are for the communities that we serve. The Secretary and I, we had a visit, and this is what he's talked about. He's talked about acres, but then he said, it doesn't matter how large the acres, it's about protecting those communities. And I really agree with him wholeheartedly, because any 2 acres or 1 acre can be just as important as 100 acres. It depends on what sits on those acres. If your home on those acres, or your courthouse is on those acres, or your banks on those houses, the place of worship on those acres, it's so important that we protect them. And that's what we are really trying to do, to try to address this wildfire crisis. It is a crisis, and it should be addressed now. Now I would like to ask Chief Moore, if you'd come forward, Chief, and maybe give some of the more details of what we are going to announce today. Great.
So thank you for that introduction, Undersecretary Wilkes, and good afternoon, everyone. I had a chance to visit with some of our partners just a few minutes ago, and we have a saying in the Forest Service that we talk about family and family environments, and I'll tell you, talking with our partners, I can tell that this is more of a family environment here in this region. And I want to say kudos to all Forest Service personnel that's here, that has fostered these relationships. I want to say kudos to our partners who has taken an interest to become partners. And I think working together is what it's all about. And I can't think of a better example anywhere across the country where that is not being lived as it is here in the southwestern region, particularly Arizona and New Mexico. As we enter our second year of implementing the Wildfire Strategic Plan, we're moving forward to demonstrate and to show the successes that we've had in the first year. And we're building onto what we have started. We've learned a lot in this last year, including making changes to our grants and agreements policies to make working with the Forest Service easier. It's no secret that, if you work with the Forest Service, you really want to work with us because our policies have not made it easy. And so because of that, we are looking at making some significant changes in our policies, particularly in our grants and agreements, our contracting, and to eliminate what I would consider to be barriers for all of these years. And so we have made some changes from policies that have been in place for over 30 years. We also know that fires don't stop at property boundaries. We have to work together to effectively confront this crisis. So because of that, it's really my privilege to stand here before you today and announce that more than $490 million to expand efforts on 11 additional landscapes across the West. These landscapes will include areas in Arizona, California, Idaho, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, and Washington. Now, combined with the initial 10 landscapes, these targeted investments, we're talking about 10 plus 11 to 21 landscapes, it will span across nearly 45 million acres across these 21 landscapes. For example, here in Arizona, we're designating the San Carlos Apache Tribal Forest Protection Landscape that spans the Apache Sitgraves, the Coronado, and the Tonto National Forest, and the San Carlos Reservation lands. With these additional 11 landscapes, wildfire risk reduction will occur on 134 high-priority fire sheds. We've mapped about 250 all across the western part of the U.S. These two pieces of legislation will allow us to really make a dent. And so you say, well, how do we explain that to me? So just think about it. The work that we're talking about is going to protect 200 communities. And when you look at protecting 200 communities, you have to have a sense of urgency, because we've seen where communities are at risk, what happens. And it's not just burned homes, lost lives, although that is critically important. It's also the critical infrastructure that communities depend on. So we need to act with a sense of urgency in how we implement these programs. So Secretary Vilsack is also authorizing the Forest Service to utilize a new emergency authority in a bipartisan infrastructure law. And we're going to combine that with the strategic implementation of some of the existing authorities that we currently have. These authorities are going to be used strategically and thoughtfully. You know, when you talk about authorities that give us more flexibility and the greater flexibility to do things, it comes with a bit of suspicion. And so I want to alleviate that to the degree that I can, that these authorities will be used thoughtfully and we'll be using them strategically across the landscapes. I'll also add that this emergency authority is not just limited to wildfire treatment. It can also be used to address other aspects of the wildfire crisis strategy. Post-fire stabilization, reforestation work, as well as restoration work from these fires. Now, working collaboratively, we're going to be doing this in the right places and at the right scale, and we're going to be doing this within the time frames that we're laying out, which are quick time frames, to be honest with you. We'll be protecting communities and critical infrastructure such as power lines, dams, municipal watersheds, and military infrastructure. Our work will consider at-risk communities and tribes. Work on the San Carlos Apache tribal forest protection landscapes will protect international waters shared with the tribes, associated drinking water systems, and residential areas. Fuels reduction work will also reduce the exposure to wildfire on the Mount Graham International Observatory and 2 telecommunication sites, which include primary communications for local law enforcement. Collaboration with tribes and the communities is a top priority for this administration, and is certainly a top priority for this agency. The San Carlos Apache protection landscape is really a perfect example of cross collaboration. And I say that because when you look at what's happening on the landscape, and you look at how fires take place on the landscape, it really doesn't care who manages what lands, who owns what's land. What it has demonstrated is that we have to work together and we have to work collaboratively if we want to make a difference on what we're seeing happening across the West in particular. So the Forest Service, I had to say, prides itself on being a learning organization, and that we're open to other ideas, perspectives, and lived experiences. We'll continue to apply lessons learned, that we incorporate innovative ideas, and we recognize the strength and the value of diverse partnership and having a portfolio to help ensure how we deliver on our mission. In conclusion, I want to say that this is a time to be bold. This is a time to really think to the future, but more importantly, it's really a time to take action. So many times, you know, we have a plan and we talk about how we might want to implement the plan. And then we engage a lot of our different communities in that plan, and we still need to do all of those things. But we must take action. We have an opportunity here, and how we work together as partners and how we collaborate together will determine our ability to get things done. You know, I look back over my career, my entire career, I've talked about what if, and that day has finally come, because we have more money than we've ever had. We have more partners than we've ever had. And what we tend to do when we look at opportunities like this, we are paralyzed by the potential for litigation. We are paralyzed by looking at how we might want to develop a plan to implement. And we need to do all of those things, because there's a lot of concerns all across the board. But we must take action, because what's happening is that we're losing lives, we're losing homes, we're losing communities. We're destroying our water infrastructure. We have disease and insects setting in across our landscapes. We have climate change that's inducing drought in unprecedented ways. We collectively have a duty, we have an obligation, and more importantly, we have the opportunity to make a difference. And I implore us to take advantage of this opportunity to demonstrate that we can work through our differences and we can get work done to protect the communities that we live in and those communities that we serve. It's my pleasure now to introduce Chairman Terry Rambler of the San Carlos Apache Tribe. And this is a position I'm told that you've held for 13 years. And so I would like to welcome you to the podium and say thank you for what you're doing.
Good morning, everybody. I am Terry Rambler. I'm the chairman of the San Carlos Apache Tribe. We have about 17,000 people that live on a landmass of about 1.8 million acres. And that land is divided by the Mogollon Rim, and the higher elevation we have forest lands, and the lower elevation we have a desert environment. And so today is really a huge day for us, a huge opportunity. I certainly feel blessed for being given this opportunity for our people. And also I thank the Biden administration, the Forest Service, and our partners who have been partners with us, but we're going to build more on that relationship that we're going to have with Apache Sitgreaves, Coronado, and Tonto National Forest as we move forward on this project. Apaches, like a lot of tribes across the United States, we've always believed that we are part of the equilibrium that our Creator God has placed here on this earth. And that's why you hear and see our strong positions on environmental issues. And so we like to believe that part of the story that God wants us to be on this land, so that for one simple reason, because He is the one that created this land, provided this land. It's not ours, it's His. We are only the caretakers. And in that sense, we got to take care of the land. And for another reason, because of our children, especially those that are not born, we can't be greedy in our time. We got to leave something for our people that we love. And so that's our belief. And as a part of this, I'm very happy to be part of this process, this project, 3 projects that we're going to undertake. And it's really important, these projects, because as was mentioned, water is very important. We know the conditions here in Arizona. It's not what they used to be. Lake mead's decreasing all the time. In spite of the rains that we had, we're still in a drought, especially south of the Mogollon Rim. And we're experiencing that on our land. So it's important. We don't have as much water to fight forest fires as we used to in the past. So that's really important for that in the land management. As Apaches, our main source of diet to this day is still acorn. We use acorn. It's a main source of diet, and emery oats. It's on our reservation, and we like to maintain that simply because we want to continue living, because acorns is a part of is our main source of diet. We have medicinal plants both in the forest environment and the desert environment that we still use today. Our grandmas, our grandpas, and our ancestors have carried that tradition on. We know where they are, we know where they live, and it helps us. We don't have to go to Walgreens all the time. We can take care of ourselves. And we also have a plan. Our tribe, we have a plan for better management of our forests with what's being planned today. And also we're in phase 2 of building up our sawmill on our reservation, and that's going to produce the rough cuts. But after that will be phase 2, which will produce the finer cuts. And so, but that's all part of it's not the end part is the economics, but the beginning part is going to help us better manage our forests, and that's what we look forward to. It's a part of this whole goal. We're planning on reaching that. We look forward to that. And what's really forced us to better manage our forests is this, not only the respect that we have for the environment, but because there's a big gap discrepancy between funding that the federal government provides for forest services and that provides for us as a tribe. We have the same landscape, a lot of areas, and this project identifies that. Like, for example, on the one of the projects encompasses one forest service in our land, but the forest itself is boundaryless in a sense. But here on the forest side, they probably get anywhere from $10 to $20 an acre to manage their forests. And here on our side, our reservation, we probably get $2 to $3 an acre to manage our forest. So there's a big discrepancy, but that's also forced us to better manage what we do in our reservation. And as we move forward, we look very much forward to working with our partners, the Forest Services, and we're more than happy to share the knowledge that we have gained through our ancestors. We have an Elders Advisory Council on our reservation that helps guide us as tribal leaders and our people, and also our employees. And so we have an archive base of information that we can rely on as we move forward in this project. And what we hope to see is that what we bring to the table is that our knowledge, our information of how we maintain forests from years past, moving forward and helping better manage our forests. So I'm very happy to be here. We're very happy to be a part of this project. So thank you, Mr. Wilkes, and everybody as part of the Forest Service and President Biden. And thank you for selecting us.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is my favorite time. I'm the batting cleanup here. So I'm Casey, the State Forester of Nevada. Chief Moore said it right, Nevada. That's good. And the president of the National Association of State Foresters. That's why I'm here today on behalf of the State Foresters. And I'm just going to reiterate a few things that were said today because all the good stuff's been said. I want to say that the State Foresters have been longtime partners of the U.S. Forest Service and a lot of our cooperators out there. In times of famine, which we've mostly lived through as far as funding and resources and how do we implement these missions that we're trying to do, we've often fought each other over small pennies to figure out how we're going to do what we knew we needed to do from our own missions. We focused on our jurisdictional lines and we focused on the things that we were required to do. And what I think you're hearing is different today. This money didn't come by chance. This money came because we asked for it, and I don't know that we asked for this much all at once, but anyway, it's here. What was different this time when we asked for it was we came to the counter together, not just state and federal government. It was local government, tribal nations, NGOs, all of our partners, homeowners, landowners. We can't do this without each other. This amount of funding at the scales we're used to talking hundreds of thousands of acres. We're talking hundreds of thousands of acres now, not hundreds of acres, hundreds of thousands of acres and millions. I just learned the number for Nevada on the way over here and I almost choked on my water, like 57 million. Woo! I'm going to call California right now and tell them I'm no longer just your neighbor. I'm coming for you. But anyway, I think the reason it was different is because we are working differently, and I think that's what everyone saw. We built this plan together, and we have to implement this plan together. We are not going to be successful if only one of us or two of us actually begin to implement. And that's what's so exciting for me. I've been in this career of state service for 20 years. We tried this 15 years ago, and we couldn't even agree on what the problem was, let alone how we were going to collectively come to a solution. This year, you look at a 10-year crisis strategy at the Forest Service, and you look at a state forest action plan, and they overlap perfectly. That is not by coincidence. That's because we worked together to create those plans. We know where our risk is higher. We know what we have to do to address that risk, and I'm very excited for the first time in my career to actually have money to implement it at a scale that might make a difference. And so I thank you all for being here. I thank you all for having been here for all this time. And I really, really do look forward to the partnerships moving forward and the successes we're going to get to tout to keep this money coming. Maybe not quite so much all at one time, but maybe this is what it's going to take for us to really make a difference in wildfire in the West and across the U.S. So I'm thankful to be here. And, also selfishly, I'm just really excited about the money in Nevada because we focus a lot on our urban areas, and so the Sierra Front did get love. That's where a lot of our homes are. But for the first time, you're seeing a huge amount of money go to rural Nevada, and the livelihoods and the economies in rural Nevada matter just as much as our homes matter. And that is something that we never would have seen 15 years ago. And so we are acting and working differently, and I'm just very grateful for that. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Jim Rambo, Casey, Chief Paul, thank you all. Let me just say this. I thank you all that's in the audience here, because you are going to be the one to make it happen. The Chief talked about it being urgent. The time is now. And we have a few dollars so we can go out and make some things different. So let's not be the people who do not make it happen. We should make it happen. I see representatives from Senator Kelly's staff, and they're shaking their head north and south, because what happened is that if we don't get this money spent in a timely fashion, there's a chance it'll go away. We're about to go into a farm bill that we're going to have to fund. So it means the thing is that's why I talk about, let's talk about not obligation, but implementation. Implementation. Let's get it implemented. It's upon us to get it implemented. I want to also say thanks to all the folks that put this plan together, because about 3 or 4 days of planning, they made this happen, and you couldn't pick a better site to make this happen. And I also want to thank the owner of here, Mr. Justin Durant. Justin, where are you? Thank you, sir, and thank you, your staff, and those who work with to make this happen. But folks, this is an exciting day. It's really exciting day. It's not often that we have needs and then have money to meet those needs. And I think this thing is coming together. If you think about it, it's coming together pretty good. And we should take full advantage of it. We really should take full advantage of it. As far as, I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator here to take care of that. But I just want to make sure we thank everybody for coming, because again, it's going to take all of us to make this happen.